Marketer, I want to call your attention to the peculiar title associated with this short presentation, 10 words or less. What can you do in 10 words or less to achieve dramatic impact on the sequence of thought? Now, bear in mind, dramatic impact on the sequence of thought can often be dramatic impact on the P&L. I want to show you an example of from our library. We've ran 20,000 plus path experiments, and we're focusing everything we speak about today on those situations, those experiments where a tiny change produced a huge impact. Look at this, version A, version B. The difference is almost indetectable. Some change to the words. So which one do you think produces the highest win? Take a look. Well, the answer is the one on the right. But inquiries go up 16% with a minor change in words. Take a look at another. Sign in and order a sample, request a free copy. I suspect if you're in the audience right now, you can pick which one of these might produce the highest lift, but by how much? Try to give yourself a range and look at the actual impact. This is an 82.5% increase. Now, inquiries require a set of actions. Something happened in the conclusion preceding the decision that drove significant intensification of action. What is happening here? Let me show you another. Two versions, very simple, very similar. But once again, an 88% increase in downloads. Now, these are all from various periods in our research. And for those of you familiar with Mech Labs or not, our entire 30 plus years of thinking has been about one particular question. Why do people say yes? I share that with you to show you a very old example. I don't know the year. It goes back into some of the earliest research in our library. It's for the New York Times. And you'll see two sets of wording. They look almost identical. The change is primarily in the order of the words. But the simple rearrangement of that word order produced a 12% increase in digital revenue for a very big brand. Now, with all that in mind, I take you to another experiment, and I want to talk about it in a new way. The question I have, and the question I'd like you to engage your mind with me on right now, is how can I learn something in this short period of time from this presentation that would enable me to make minor changes and get major results? To do that, I'm going to share with you an experiment that I taught at one of our summits. If you've seen this before, stay with me because I'm going to talk about it in a new way. I'm going to suggest that there is an answer to this pervasive question on two levels, at the tactical level and at the strategic level. The most interesting piece will come towards the end when we can talk about the strategic level. But for now, let me just touch the tactical level. There are a version, a set of headlines that are being tested here. We actually tested 10. Here are 4. Can you pick from the 4 which one you think will produce the highest conversion increase? Now, look at that. Make your decision, and let's look at the actual result. What you should see is that number 2, get rewarded for your opinion, outperformed the others. We are talking about minor changes, but what we're trying to do is have a major impact on the mind. To do that, we can't simply add an incremental improvement to our marketing argument. We've literally got to do something that has a higher impact, more intense penetration into the thinking process. So let's look at all 10 of the headlines that we tested. Once again, because I've taught this, most people watching this video have never seen it. But even if you've been in our college courses or you've seen this, I want to take it to a new place. So engage, think with me, but look at these headlines because I want you to see they've now been rearranged in a particular order. And you can see the highest performing headline compared to the lowest performing, and they're in descending order. What is it about the top 5 that differentiates them from the bottom 5? Because there is a pattern here. See, data is nothing but behavioral traces. You're trying to use the data to trace the brain tracks back into the into this epicenter of the prospect's thinking process, and from there, discern something meaningful that could change how you communicate. The ultimate sign of effective communication is conversion. It is the most affirmative vote for your argument. So let's think about that in light of this simple experiment with headlines. Because what I think you're going to see is while the change in the words is minor, the change in the mind is major. But how? Well, if you look, you'll need to first identify a principle that might help you review those headlines in a new light. First of all, there's something we've determined in our research here called point-sequenced grammar. It's simple to explain, and if you understand it, it'll allow you to analyze the headlines better. So let's do this short deviation. Remember, I said we'd get tactical. We're going to be very tactical, but then we're going to get quite strategic. From a tactical standpoint, point-sequenced grammar is about being very careful in terms of where you place the main point of your communication. Is it at the front of the sentence? Is it at the middle of the sentence? Or is it at the end? There are certain cases when you want the point to be at the end because you're building towards it. There are certain cases where you want your point in the beginning because you need to get to it right away and capture their attention immediately. There are very few times when you want it in the middle, in the muddy, fuzzy middle where it's missed by many people as they skate by it on their way to eliminating you as an option. We read these types of offers in order to eliminate them so that we can get to what we really need. So, there's an example of point first, point middle, point last. Now, go back to the headlines. What do you see? There are 5 similarities in the top 5. What are they? If you have identified the way the wording works, you might notice the second point here, which is this. The winning headlines are dominated by what we would call customer-centric logic. Customer-centric logic, as opposed to company-centric or company-first logic. Customer-centric logic starts with the rationale that works in the mind of the prospective customer. And in this case, at the front of each winning headline is the get factor. In fact, if you look, get paid, get rewarded, all of those say the word get, which is a strong headline opener, but the others imply it. Win. For the most part, what you're seeing in this pattern is that even though the change of words is minor, the mental impact is major because you've inverted the very point of the sentence. For instance, set up, that's work. That's what the company wants you to do. Set up your free account, and free is lost in the middle. Join, nobody wants to join. Joining isn't a plus, it's a minus. And again, this is the company telling you what they want you to do. So the point here is if you want to get major impact with minor changes, you need to learn how to get major mental impact with minor word changes. And that way, you can achieve major P&L impact. Highly tactical, but it leads to what I'm most excited to share with you about. And to do that, I want to talk about something that we rarely use in our experimentation, but is the single most important key to being effective in your design of experiments. Please pay close attention to this word. It's the word coherence. At a strategic level, you've got to see in your mind's eye a picture of the mental process that a prospective customer engages in. And if you can't see that entire process, you're not sure exactly what to adjust to produce the desired impact. The point here is that for you to get the perspective that would allow you to know which word to change, to move beyond the little tactical shift to the strategic impact in your marketing, you need to understand how the customer thinks. You need a single picture. You need something in the philosophy of science called coherence. I'm going to give you an example of that. It's the best example I know. It might seem completely unrelated, but I'm holding something I had printed prior to speaking to you right now. It is about a brilliant engineer named Steinmetz. If if this word and this shift is starting to lose your attention, I think you'll find it explains everything I'm trying to say in the single, most coherent way. Steinmetz was called in by Ford. Ford, the great tycoon, had a difficulty in his plant, and none of his engineers could solve it. Steinmetz worked for GE, but he is legendary for his capabilities. And when he was called in, he asked for nothing more than a pen, a cot, and a notebook. Then he placed these near the machine and listened while he scribbled calculations. What's interesting is he did this for 2 days, and after 2 days, he requested a ladder. You can imagine the engineers at Ford were perplexed. But they conceded, gave him the ladder. He climbed up the ladder, and with a piece of chalk, he marked a spot. Then he climbed down, and he told them, you need to go there at that exact place and recoil the apparatus with 16 turns. And the problem will resolve itself. To say they were skeptical is an understatement. But, of course, they paid for his services, and so they did exactly as he said, and the machine was completely fixed. Now, what's interesting is what happened afterward. And if you're starting to sense some pattern here and the pattern in the headlines, then you're ahead of me. Because Ford got the bill. He had been very pleased at this point until he got the bill. And the bill was for $10,000, which is an enormous amount of money in those days. Ford demanded an itemized request. I want to read to you from the wording of the invoice. It says exactly this: making chalk mark on generator, $1. Knowing where to make mark, $9,999. Ford paid the bill. Now, if you're wondering how this connects to headlines and the point of this simple piece together, it is only this. We need to stop thinking about testing in its incremental, one-off, additive way. We need to stop thinking about data as piles of information in various categories, and we need to weave it together into a coherent tapestry that helps us understand what's happening in the mind of the customer. And when you achieve that coherence, you may know just exactly which screw to turn. You may know just exactly which word to change. You may know exactly which place to mark with that chalk. But ultimately, only by fighting for a coherent understanding of the customer's mental process can you achieve the type of precision that enables you to make these smart, strategic changes, the kind of changes that might be low in energy impact but high in financial impact.